I'm joined by Lord Hesketh, a former cabinet minister in both Margaret Thatcher's and John Major's governments, and he's just become the most high-profile defector from David Cameron's Conservative Party, joining UKIP, the UK Independence Party. Lord Hesketh, thanks for speaking to RT. Now, you've been a member of the Tory party all your adult life. Why jump ship now?
Well, it's been a long process, and I think the simple summation is this. Every government that we have had, with the exception of Margaret Thatcher, has essentially allowed itself to be bamboozled by its civil service into avoiding having a serious discussion with the Europeans about sorting out the problem. And I'm afraid that has now happened with this government. There's no point listening to a lot of people telling you what they believe in when they fail to carry it out in government. And so the only party which actually recognises that you cannot deal with the Europeans have no desire to negotiate. Europe, or the EU, is a new kind of religion. It is run by people who pay far lower taxes than anyone else in Europe and have their children educated free of charge in a circle, I believe, of 14 private schools around Brussels, and a European Parliament which most of the members have paid about 3 or 4 times as much money as they would ever earn in any other job that you or I might have to do in life. And the system is essentially corrupt, and it is unchangeable. And therefore, I've joined a party which believes in 2 things. One is telling people the truth and sticking with it when we achieve office, which eventually we will, because the public are absolutely fed up to the back teeth with mainstream politicians mouthing happiness, hopes and promises and delivering absolutely nothing but the opposite.
David Cameron has said that there will be a referendum on Britain's position in the EU, and he wants to repatriate powers to Britain. Do you not believe him then? Do you not think he's true to his word? Well,
he's already lied once, which was over promising a referendum after the election, and then saying, oh, well, because Lisbon's been signed, it doesn't make any sense anymore. Well, the fact of the matter is I don't believe him. And the second thing is the Europeans, who are much more dangerous than any British politician, have already stated that we will not have a power of veto over the so-called financial transaction tax, which we will pay 80% of the entire European collection, i.e. 40 billion out of the 50, because it will be put through under VAT regulations. So, as always, Westminster talks a big game, but is not capable of delivering it.
Why is it so important to have the referendum now? Do you not believe Cameron when he says it's not the right time and we need to help the EU?
This is absolutely the time to help the EU, and the way that you help the EU is you recognise it for what it is, which is an organisation that has no interest in assisting this country whatsoever. So if we're going to help them, it's exactly the same as selling a car, it's exactly the same as selling a loaf of bread. Do you wait till the other side has the advantage over you, or don't you? We've got them in a situation where they've got a problem, we've got a problem. Let us together get rid of both problems. But for us to talk as if we will get any credit from Europe for actually helping them out of this crisis, using the British taxpayers' money, I mean, come on. You know, a combination of the United States, the United Kingdom and Russia bailed out Europe in World War II, and I don't see many thanks being handed around to either of those 3 parties. So I have absolutely no confidence whatsoever that there is any alternative but to have a referendum as soon as possible.
But if we do have that and we do leave and the EU crisis continues to rumble on and gets worse, won't our economy suffer as well?
Well, that of course is one of the great lies that is given. I mean, the reality is this. The figures for exports, they say, well, 80% of British exports go to Europe. Well, actually, that seems to imply that every Rolls-Royce aero engine, many of which are, for instance, fitted on Aeroflot aircraft, go to Toulouse and remain within the European Union. That's complete nonsense. And the wings on those aircraft are all made in the United Kingdom. Do they all remain in Europe? Of course they don't. They go to Russia, they go to Asia, they go to South America, they go to North America, they go all over the place. And so that number in itself is a sort of typical Euro lie. The second issue, and it's an even more important one, is that if the Germans say, well, we don't care, we're just going to squeeze you boys out of the market and we're going to put on tariffs, they export 51 billion per annum more to from Europe into the UK than the other way around. Now, we have a very viable industry here. We've got a fantastic car industry, and if the Deutschmark soars through the roof, people will just be switching straight out of Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, or whatever, and buying Jaguars, Discoveries, Range Rovers, Nissans, you name it, Toyotas, made in Derby. So I think this is it's a sort of rather pathetic threat that you would expect to be manufactured by a combination of the Liberal Party and the BBC, on the grounds that neither of those two groups have any experience of the real world.
The EU bailout that's just been agreed, with the extra firepower and the banks agreeing to halve Greece's debt, is this really the shot the EU needs, or is it just another Band-Aid?
It's a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid because the real number is 3 trillion, maybe 4 trillion. And secondly, the markets are looking for detail, and there is no detail. There never has been any detail. There was no detail in July. There was no detail last year. And there will be no detail this time, and this deal will fall apart. And the markets will make that happen because the markets don't like being lied to, and as usual, they are being lied to.
Let's just say, what if it does work, okay? What if the EU recovers and Britain's not part of it? What if they leave? What do we stand to lose?
I don't think we stand to lose anything like as much as the rest of the Europeans stand to lose. They run a huge trade surplus with us, so they're going to be the losers. There's no particular... I mean, the Europeans, I mean, look, the German army, let's take the German army, for example. The German army consumes more beer in Afghanistan than it does aviation fuel. I mean, there are some pretty fundamental problems in Europe in terms of what they're actually capable of doing and delivering. I mean, today we've had the last sort of great lie thrown at us, which is if we don't all agree to this magnificent settlement, it's going to be war.
So is this the beginning of the end, would you say, for the EU? I
don't think it's the beginning of the end at all. I think maybe the beginning of a new beginning, which will be based on fact rather than fiction. Because the problem at the moment is the EU is based on fiction, because it doesn't have political reality. The whole problem about this crisis is it was created by the Europeans themselves because you could not have a single currency without a political union. They knew they couldn't get away with the political union, so they disappeared to the equivalent of Las Vegas and signed up to a maniac proposition, which is to have a unified currency with no unified policies. The result is you have a situation, and you want to forget trillions, forget billions, forget hundreds of millions. Look at the reality. If you want to go and have a cup of coffee in Saint-Tropez, one of the most expensive places in the world, it costs you the same as going to Piraeus Harbour in Greece. Now, if you're going to get rid of unemployment in Greece, you're going to have to get the price down. And as long as everything is priced in euros, that will never be possible to happen. Therefore, the best thing, if I was a Greek, I would be dying to get a drachma, to get out of this. Because what happens? They're still in the Eurozone. So the French banks take a haircut. But they're still stuck with the euro. And of course, everyone prices. You see, to give you an example, before the Eurozone, a car manufacturer in Europe would have a different pricing structure for cars that were sold in Greece, the cars were sold in Turkey, cars that were sold in Italy, southern Italy, northern Italy, the UK, parts of southern England, northern England, Wales, Ireland, wherever, because the markets would there was a level of individual pricing. Now, the moment the Eurozone came in and the single market came in, what then happened was you couldn't actually do that any longer. So the result was that there was an automatic explosion of inflation, particularly in a country like Greece, which produces practically nothing domestically in the capital goods market. So the result was that the costs went up on a progressively higher scale than elsewhere in Germany. That's why Northern Europe has been the winner out of the Eurozone, and Southern Europe has been basically impoverished by it.
Lord Hesketh, thank you.
Thank you very much.